Salutations! After over a year, we're at the final installment of Halo 2 Uncut. This update includes the final 2 missions of the game, and as of the newest version that will be coming soon, the entire multiplayer map lineup, along with a lot of the cut multiplayer maps included in the Halo 2 editing kit. Since I dropped the 1.0 update on December 28th, the support the mod has been getting has been absolutely unreal. Jervalen has been streaming deathless attempts on his Twitch channel, the speedrunning community made a Halo 2 Uncut category, and Halo YouTubers such as Froggerkist, Mint Blitz, Arash, Hidden Xperia, and many others have covered the mod, and I sincerely thank each and every one of you for your support, especially the tens of thousands of people who have played and provided feedback and bug reports. Without all of your help, this project wouldn't have been nearly as successful. Thank you. Before we jump into the last 2 campaign missions, I'd like to talk about some of the new global additions and changes to the mod. Starting with one of the most significant is the spike grenade. Believe it or not, the concept of the spike grenade originated in Halo 2, not in Halo 3. This was discovered by the MCC dig site team and was released for the Halo 2 editing kit a few months prior. It works like a combination of the frag and plasma grenades. It can stick to bipeds and vehicles, but bounces off everything else, exploding in mid-air after a single bounce. For Uncut, this grenade will appear during the last 4 missions of the campaign, replacing the frag grenade. Next up is the new model for the Brute Shot, based off of the E3 2003 demo rendition. This is actually not a dig site find, but it's still an official asset made by Bungie, and it was found in the weirdest place. If you extract Halo 3's Brute model, you'll notice a Brute Shot jutting out of its right knee. This weapon model is a representation of the Brute's right hand marker. Why a pre-release Halo 2 asset is bundled with a retail Halo 3 asset is beyond me. Regardless, Halo modder Crevel took the asset and made a proper in-game version of it, and is now the basis of Uncut's Brute Shot. On the Delta Halo mission, there's a brand new Spectre encounter shortly after getting the Scorpion.
Spectre! Take out the gunner.
The Phantom Destruction effects will be updated for the newest build of the mod. These were made by Ruby's Halo 2 Rebalanced crew. The last change is the finalized Falcon design. Killzone 64 made the model and animations for it, while Savin' Private Mike worked on the textures. While it won't be usable during the campaign, it will have a multiplayer variant that'll have full usability, and I'll show that later. For now, let's head on over to the last 2 campaign levels for Halo 2 Uncut. High Charity begins with a cut aerial set piece. As the 2 Pelicans fly by, 2 Banshees fly after them. While there weren't any squads referencing these 2 in the scenario, there's proof of this concept within the mission script's comments that states what they were supposed to do. The second Pelican stops at the ledge across the crashed one and drops off some combat forms, with one of them holding a rocket launcher. After heading up the grav lift, we enter the large room with the retractable energy bridges. The main difference here is that we can actually use the bridge on the right, where the bridge on the left was the only option in the regular game. This will let you bypass the encounter with the brutes, combat forms, and drones. However, if enough of these drones die, a new squad can spawn right behind you if you happen to be on the transitionary platform, so watch out. In the very next dark room, there's a stealth elite hiding in the shadows, waiting to ambush the player. The sole piece of evidence for this is found in the mission script. A whole command script that's entirely removed from the game shows that this elite was meant to crouch somewhere and repeatedly look at 3 point sets, stopping if it took damage. I added onto this concept by having the elite attack you once you pass a trigger volume, pulling out a sword and everything. In regular Halo 2, there actually is a dead elite miner with a sword in here. It's possible that they cut the ambush elite and turned it into this dead biped, but I don't know for sure. After this room, a string of cut Cortana lines begin to play.
Flood spores have contaminated the city's life support infrastructure. The filtration systems are overloading. The amount of flood biomass is increasing exponentially. There are reports of infestations in every district. If the speed of the flood spread in this tower is any indication, It won't take long for it to overrun the entire city. The security systems in this part of the tower are particularly robust.
The door leading into the inner sanctum's elevator is broken, with a dead brute being crushed underneath it. Before and during the last lift ride, Cortana will speak some more cut lines.
Ships are engaging one another all around High Charity. Jackals and drones declare themselves the servants of the group. The hunters have sworn allegiance to the elites. The grunts seem to be neutral, or at least afraid to announce which side they support. Except for truth, the prophets aren't saying a word. I'm running out of options, Chief. I can't stall the launch sequence much longer. The next lift will take you up to the conduit. Hurry! If it makes you feel any better, I'm locking the doors behind you. Should keep some of the blood off your back.
This is what we've all been waiting for. The cut Warthog Run for Halo 2. Another Flood Pelican flies by with our Warthog. 3 Banshees are chasing it down, and the damage from their cannons causes the Pelican to conveniently drop it right in front of us. This sequence is actually referenced in the scenario this time, although the Warthog part of it was made by me to explain how a hog could even be here. From here on, the encounters that appeared during the Warthog Run are custom made by me, because there's nothing left over when it comes to the encounter design for this long tunnel. The geometry for this Warthog Run has been in the map files since the original Xbox days. The Hog Run consists of 3 parts. The first tunnel, an extremely long energy tunnel, then finally the last tunnel. The last tunnel comes with rotating device machines that serve as obstacles for your vehicle. When looking at the unmodified energy tube, the background has no visible skybox. That's because the tag reference for the skybox that it was supposed to use is invalid, since the tag doesn't exist anymore. For the time being, unless the dig site team manages to find this unused skybox, I simply use the standard skybox the exterior portion of this level uses. I imagine the unused one has the Forerunner Dreadnought appear closer than normal as you make your way to it. The ending shows a large Forerunner object that's meant to portray the Dreadnought, but looking outside just shows a giant wall. There are some unused script threads in the mission script that reference vehicle encounters, but how they were supposed to actually play out is a mystery, considering there's no cohesion to these threads. It's simply a lot of random cut threads thrown into a metaphorical pile. So to preserve some original intent from what I could make of this, I simply included vehicles such as ghosts, a wraith, and even a shadow that serves as a blockade. Also, since High Charity is the only map in base Halo 2 that has the Juggernaut's character tag in its files, I opted to include it in the Hog Run as well. The music for the Warthog Run, which is a custom mix of Halo 2's Mjolnir mix track, was made by Neo Tiaika. The final level of the game, The Great Journey, is up next. Where we last left off on Uprising, it's revealed that 2 Scarabs are guarding the entrance to the control room. At the very start of the level, you were supposed to have an additional allied Wraith back you up. The enemy Wraith that meets you in the next area was to be deployed by a Phantom. More importantly though is the inclusion of a squad of Jackals by the rocks, a trio of Jackal snipers on the left hand cliffside, and a Covenant gun tower raining down plasma against you. Evidence for these squads can be found in both the mission script notes, as seen here with the gun emplacement mentions, as well as the scenario, which has these unused squads. The gun tower needed to be added to the level, but the ledge here perfectly fits this turret. The area with the parked Scarab has 2 unused ghost squads, one behind this tree to the left, and another underneath the Scarab on the right. As we make our way inside the structure, everyone's favorite enemy, the drones, were cut from the initial indoor brute encounter. Immediately after this is a pretty major piece of cut content. A squad of sentinels patrol this cave, and your elite allies reference them.
The Sentinels won't attack unless we give them a reason.
Curses, we have enough to worry about as it is.
I set this encounter up so the Sentinels ignore both you and your enemies unless you kill one of them. While the Sentinels, nor the squad they're a part of, were natively a part of this level, the point set markers they're scripted to move to actually were pre-placed by Bungie, confirming that this was the place you'd find them. When the Covenant reinforcements arrive, there's another squad of cut drones. Outside, a cut squad of grunts are retreating from the enemy Jackals. On the opposite side of the bridge towards the door is a squad of brutes that make their way outside. The last noteworthy thing here is the cut set piece revolving around the Phantom that shows up to harass you. In the base game, this Phantom just sticks around until you either shoot off its turrets or progress further into the level. The original idea for the scene, however, is that allied banshees appear to force the Phantom to go away. This is referenced in the script notes, and their squad is left over in the scenario. Inside the prison room, there's a few more elite prisoners. There's one counselor that's dual-wielding plasma pistols, an extra elite inside the left corner cell, and an elite zealot in a cell on the upper right platform. The squads for all of these are here in the scenario, but what's present here didn't originally correlate to what's said in the script comments. There was only one elite spawn for this corner cell, and the zealot elite was set to be another counselor, so I made those adjustments to this scene. Now we head to the juicy stuff. After killing the brutes holding Johnson prisoner, instead of taking a Banshee, we're instead riding Johnson's Scarab alongside elite and marine allies.
Humans fighting alongside elites? What's next? Rot hierarchs?
After all I've seen today, I would not be surprised.
It's referenced here in the script notes for this encounter. The elites, marines, and Johnson himself were all pre-placed by Bungie, going unused when the Scarab ride was cut. We're then tasked to grab a bomb from inside our Scarab, and the ride begins. I can see why this whole sequence was removed from the game. Riding the Scarab while trying to target enemies is a really frustrating experience. Your shots will deviate from your reticle placement if the Scarab does any twisting and turning motions. As Johnson's Scarab makes its way through the canyon, an enemy Phantom will show up and deploy brutes onto your Scarab. Killing them will then cause an allied Banshee to appear, landing on top of the Scarab so the pilot will give it to you.
Now I know why you have the fancy armor. Take my Banshee armor.
Once you get into the Banshee, the 2 Scarab sequence begins. With the bomb you took earlier, you're tasked to arm it onto one of the Scarabs. Johnson will wait for you to destroy one of the Scarabs, and he'll make his way over the cliff to then destroy the other Scarab with his own. Unfortunately, this was not how the Scarab fight was supposed to play out, but I went with this path because the original intent seems impossible to make happen, at least with my skill set. Johnson's Scarab was actually supposed to ram one of the enemy Scarabs, and the two would butt heads with each other while you board the enemy Scarab. You'd then kill the crew, and the mission would proceed as normal. A lot of cut dialogue associated with this part is still present in the tags.
Next step up ahead. Hang on. Oh, to hell with this. Geronimo! What did he say?
By the rings, is the human mad?
Do I gotta do everything? Get over there and finish him off. Hey, Fancy Pants, would it help if I said please? Damn, we could do this dance all day. I'll keep it busy. You go over there and kill it.
We'll make sure the brutes don't reclaim this Scarab.
Don't worry about me. Board that damn thing. I can't keep this up forever. Get over there before it gets a lucky shot.
Once Johnson's Scarab destroys the door leading to the control room, an allied Phantom will fly in to deploy more elite allies, who will follow you into the next encounter. 2 shade turrets were supposed to appear in this room, as mentioned here in the script document. Finally, the brutes that are with Tartarus at the beginning of the boss fight were originally honor guards. These were likely changed to regular brutes so they'd be easier to headshot with a carbine. And that's the end of our journey through the cut content of Halo 2's campaign. However, our journey on Halo 2 Uncut isn't over yet. We do have another set of maps to look at. Let's dive in to multiplayer. While most people think of Halo 2's campaign when it comes to the game's cut content, not many people are aware that the multiplayer side of things has its own share of cut content that didn't make it into the final product. I'll start with the maps that are in retail and go over the elements that were cut from them, and even showcase older versions of some of these maps that came with the Dig Site tag release. There's 7 of these earlier map versions, all from the year 2003. Lockout, Burial Mounds, Waterworks, Midship, Headlong, Ascension, and Colossus. After this, I'll cover maps that were entirely scrapped from original Xbox retail and even cut Halo 2 Vista Maps. Let's begin with one of the poster children for Halo 2 multiplayer, Lockout. I've covered pre-release Lockout before in my Halo 2 Alpha analysis, and that's relevant because the scenery objects that were cut from Lockout once appeared in the alpha. However, when looking at said cut objects, they're merely pieces that already appear on the map itself, so what gives? Halo 2 levels introduced a subtype of geometry called instants. To put it simply, think of instance geometry as scenery objects that are actually a part of the map itself, as opposed to traditional objects you place down in Sapien. This was introduced as a way to save memory, as there's a limit to how many objects you can have on a map at a time before performance issues arise. This also eases the process for generating map lighting, as the game has to put in extra effort to properly light scenery objects as opposed to map geometry. These objects you see here are from a time in Halo 2's development where instance geometry had not been introduced yet. One of these that stands out is the antenna piece. The scenery version has a red lens flare included on top, which was removed when it became instance geo. This appeared in the Halo 2 alpha version. For Uncut, I made a custom scenery tag that only includes the lens flare and placed it on top of each antenna to restore this small piece of history. Moving on to the 2003 version of Lockout, it's essentially a blockout of the map. Fundamentally, it's still Lockout, but there are some key differences. Two of the map's trapdoors are not in yet, the one from S2 to S1, and the one from Library to Sword Spawn. At Library, the ramps leading to BR3 are not in yet, and behind BR Tower on the left side, the pathway is curved and leads to a ladder that takes you to BR3. A major layout difference is the lack of elbow and its ramps. Instead, there was supposed to be a one-way teleporter that connects from bottom blue to S1. Lastly, instead of a grav lift, there's an elevator that takes you from bottom to top blue, and vice versa. The way it works is you can either step onto the elevator and it'll take you to the opposite position, or you stand on either side of it to call it up or down depending on where you are. Let's move on to burial mounds. Like with Lockout, some of the unused scenery objects became instance geo on the map. There are also some unique rocks that go unused. Each of them have physics, and the larger rocks break apart into smaller rocks. The 2003 version is significantly different. You can tell the shape of the layout somewhat resembles Final, but there are important changes. There are no base structures here, with both flags exposed outside. There are pathways embedded into the cliffs on two sides of the map, one with a sniper rifle on this platform, and another with a rocket launcher up here. Probably the most drastic one is this unique teleporter not seen anywhere else in Halo 2. There's 3 of them on the map, and you teleport to each of them in a sequential order. Some of the scenery pieces here are unique to this build of burial mounds and do not show up in Final, with one of them being destructible. Waterworks is up next, and these are the unused scenery and crate objects found in the scenario. Once again, some of these become instance geo like the stalactites, but there's quite a few objects here that don't seem to match the style of this map, and there's a good reason for this. The 2003 version of Waterworks matches the style of these unused pieces, with some of these pipes even making an appearance on the map. The structures are blockouts, and while they are fundamentally similar, there's key differences. The entrance of the base serves as a parking garage for the Warthog. There's an opening to the left of the entrance that leads to a small driveway for 2 ghosts. There's also a ramp that lets players jump to the upper floor of the base. The hole in the wall that would have led to the trapdoor is not present in this version. The Banshee platform is mostly the same, but it lacks a teleporter, as well as the ramp that leads to the back of the base. The teleporter is actually behind the base along with a second one. The grottos are the open spaces on the left and right sides of the map, which notably lacks the structures that appear in retail. The other teleporter takes you to the central structure, and almost everything about the middle of the map is different. There's no death pit on the map at all, and there's no way to get to the central building from bottom mid. There's tunnels to the side of bottom mid, offering more vehicle pathways than in retail. At each of the 4 ramps leading to the structure, there's stalactites that act as vehicle blockers, but you can still wedge a ghost in between them. On the side facing Red Team's grotto, there's an entrance that takes you to an elevator, which brings you to the top floor. 2003 Waterworks' map pickup layout is definitely something. A lot of items are in areas that require a Banshee to get to. Some of the weirdest ones to me include this overshield on the side facing Blue Grotto, and even another banshee on a rock pillar. Next up is Midship. Midship has always had elaborate Covenant holograms sprinkled throughout the level, but there's a few more types that go completely unused. Many of these are massive and don't really fit the level in their current scale. For the new Uncut update, I added these to the map at smaller scales in places I felt made sense. There's also a switch that's left over in the map files as well, and I think I have a theory that could explain what this was for, but more on that a bit later. Here's the 2003 version of Midship, which is once again a blockout rendition of the map. It's quite dark, and there's no Covenant materials being used anywhere, so Bungie added some dynamic lights to certain areas to improve visibility. The most obvious difference in terms of layout is the lack of the central floating platform where Sword Spawn is. Instead of grav lifts at each base, they're elevators that serve the same purpose. There's no red or blue climb in this version either. There's also drop downs in the 4 corners of the base, which were reduced to just 1 in retail. The Carbine area is drastically different to retail. There's no way to get to the upper walkway unless you take this elevator up, but there's seemingly no way to call it down. There is a way to though. If you go to Pink Side, there's a door, and when you go all the way into it, the elevator will come down. It'll go up once a player stands on it, revealing a rocket launcher at the top. I think this is where the switch was supposed to go, with the trigger volume method being used here as a quick placeholder. Besides the door at Pink 1, Pink Side has some changes too. Not only is there no Pink 3, but there's a drop down leading to Pink 1 as well. Ascension has more unused scenery objects, some that are rocks, with one of them being untextured, and railings that are also untextured. The 2003 version of this map is mostly the same as Final when it comes to the layout, but there are 2 areas that got revisions. The main tower is missing the right side pathway in the back, leaving the left side the only alternate way to get into this building. The other area is rocket spawn. Instead of a singular platform, there's a pathway that connects from the sniper roost to an area close to Final's rocket spawn. You go down here, jump over these rocky stairs, and you'll find the heavy weapon in front of a teleporter, which leads you to the standard receiver node. There's a fuel rod cannon in place of a rocket launcher because I noticed the fuel rod was in the weapon palette for the 03 version, so I opted to give it a try in the rocket's place. The sniper roost area also lacks the elbow piece that the second sniper rifle spawns at. The scenery objects from the final version's palette are here, but still go unused. Colossus is an interesting map. The unused scenery objects are rocks, which makes no sense considering this level is not a natural formation. There's also this plain box. 2 unused grav lifts that use the midship lift design are in here, which would be replaced by the larger final version. If you were confused about the rock scenery, the 2003 version of Colossus will clear things up, and this rendition is an entirely different map. You can see some hints to Final Colossus with the base design and some of the walkways, but the concept for the level would undergo a radical change. It reminds me a lot of the Halo 1.5 map 0 Hour, even down to the sniper spawns that overlook the bases. The final map that has a 2003 version is Headlong, and this map is nowhere close to resembling its final counterpart. It uses the city style seen in the E3 2003 demo, and the map is significantly larger, with more buildings and roads offering a plethora of different play spaces. There's 5 total buildings: Homeworld Savings, Apollo's Coffee and Snacks, with an X, the Alien Ministry, Blue Sahara Parking, and the Ivory Tower Condominiums. The Homeworld Savings building serves as red base for CTF, while the Ivory Tower Condominiums acts as blue base. There's also this funny decal for these teleporters. On the streets, there's these placeholder street transmitters that go entirely unused in Halo 2. The cafe tables and the 1 chair in the coffee building are also entirely unused in Halo 2, but were meant to appear in Metropolis as well. Now that I finished going over the maps with 2003 counterparts, the maps I'll cover will be the launch and DLC maps that include unused elements to them, in no particular order. If I don't mention a specific map, it's because I couldn't find any unused content for it. Let's go over what I feel is one of Halo 2's most important levels, Zanzibar. It has quite a few unused scenery and crate objects, with a few of them becoming instance geos such as the trees, followed by completely unused pieces like the resupply capsule in these cases. An older version of the awning is also here, one that's bigger than the one used at the defending bases. Shooting it will cause the hinges to fall off, which doesn't happen with the standard ones. This is significant because the hinges have actual collision, which interrupted player movement. You can see this happen in the Halo 2 beta's rendition of Zanzibar. While this bit doesn't necessarily count as cut content, the scripted elements for the E3 2004 flycam sequences are still present on Zanzibar's scenario, including all the camera positions and the objects associated with it. Gemini has a few interesting objects that go unused. While this piece here became instance, a couple Covenant crates and the antennae are in the crate palette. More importantly, there's the elaborate Covenant doors seen in High Charity's inner sanctum. The one on the right is the standard variant, and the one on the left was a Gemini specific type that opens and closes much faster. Backwash has some pre-placed resupply capsules scattered throughout the level, as well as a Covenant crate hidden in the crate palette. Relic also has pre-placed objects on the map in the form of these Covenant drop pods behind the defending team's base. The defending base lost this Covenant shield door that blocks this ramp, serving as a vehicle blocker. The shield takes damage exactly like a standard energy shield, with plasma doing better against it. You can also shoot the device itself to damage it, and non-plasma weapons can destroy it quicker this way. For Terminal, the only things I could find are a destroyed Uber chassis and a small crate that go unused. Coagulation, Beaver Creek, and Desolation all have either unused trees or trees that became instance geo. Warlock has this unused pedestal crate object. Sanctuary has these small destructible statues, and you can barely see these in pre-release marketing material for this map. The final standard map I want to talk about is Containment, which has my favorite cut content out of the regular maps. Like before, there's a bunch of scenery objects that went unused, such as these rocks from burial mounds. An older version of the explosive mines are also still in the files, using a design similar to standard fusion coils. What makes Containment my favorite, however, are these base shields, and the power core that was meant to go with them. Originally, the buildings that housed the flags were meant to have retractable shields. It started off as closed, with the only entrances being on the sides and in the ceiling. When you shoot the power core, that will trigger the shield to be raised. The scripts for this are actually left over in Containment's script document. Big shout out to Discord user Navarone for editing the base geometry to properly house these base shields. The following maps are completely cut from Halo 2. These first few maps were meant to release with the original Xbox version of the game. Let's start with Anchor Point. This was a map made by former Bungie artist Vic DeLeon. According to him, it was designed around 2v2 Banshee duels. Sadly, other Bungie members didn't find this map fun to play for standard modes, and it's not hard to see why they felt that way. Players are funneled through these linear pathways that are easy to lock down, especially the exposed one in the middle. While this is subjective, I actually think this map's pretty fun with a BTB-sized lobby. That might be a result of recency bias, but look at this clip right here. I'm afraid to boost.
Don't boost, that's a bad idea.
Yeah, there are. It's on the bottom. They're kind of hidden.
Oh no. Oh, that'll work. Fuck it.
Oh, where are they? I saw someone come in here.
Please get it, please get it, please get it, please get it.
Where's you on the bomb?
I fell off! Yes! Yes! The next Bungie map is Grotto. Quite simply, it's a campaign to multiplayer conversion of the waterfall section of Delta Halo. I can't imagine this level playing very well outside of gimmick modes. There's a plasma rifle and magnum at the top of the waterfall, which are only accessible if a player's lucky enough to spawn up here. There's also 3 frag grenades inside this cave, which you can't see because of how dark it is in here. Not much else to this level otherwise. Finally, there's Shaft. It's a level in its blockout stage, resembling a UNSC drilling site. It's an asymmetrical map designed for one objective modes, and there's quite a few ways to get into the defending base. The map's materials are mostly just Zanzibar seawall textures. The following 6 maps were meant to appear in Halo 2 Vista, either as a standard map or just a scenario for modders to utilize. I believe this map, Soccer, was one of the latter. It's simply a soccer stadium, with a Metropolis soccer ball spawning in the middle of the map. In this sneak peek video showcasing the Halo 2 Vista mod tools, it said that the intention was to actually bring soccer to Halo 2, with the soccer ball representing the flag, for example. While you can't set it up that way with the regular game type settings, I attempted to bring this idea to life for Uncut. I scripted it so whenever the soccer ball is in a specific goal, the ball will respawn at its spawn point, and the team that scored it will get a point. If a team manages to score 3 times, the match will automatically end. The original version of the map had warthogs with turrets, a bunch of rocket launchers, players spawning with sniper rifles, and a wraith and scorpion in the middle. I wanted this game to completely center around getting goals with a soccer ball, so I made it as pacifistic as possible, using the unused troop variant of the Warthog, and everyone spawning with plasma pistols. The next map is Artery. It's a symmetrical map based off of the Forerunner cave systems seen in Uprising and the Grave Journey. It's clearly unfinished, with no weapons or objectives placed on the map, and there's visible seams in the geometry in the middle. Red Team's side isn't even lit properly, while Blue Team's is. Getting around the level would have been tricky, considering many of these pathways are extremely linear. To make matters worse, the bottom floor is a massive dead end, with no way back up to the playable areas. For Uncut, I made a bunch of revisions to the level to make it more playable. Besides adding weapons and scenery, the seams in the middle were patched up, Red Team's base is now properly lit, and the bottom floor now has 2 ways to get back up. Near the bases, there's a one-way teleporter that'll bring you back up. There's also these ledges towards the middle that offer another way up, significantly improving the map's flow. Continuing on, we have 2 versions of the level Convergence. This is another symmetrical map, this time styled around the fellow multiplayer map Ascension. Unlike Artery, it's one of the few cut levels that look finished, with a seemingly better layout. I especially love the map's background with how the pipes are layered with the cloudy fog. An interesting piece of scenery here is this Halo 1 barricade, repurposed for Halo 2. The other smaller barricade from Halo 1 is also included in the level files, but went unused. There's an older blockout version of this map as well. It's noticeably smaller and not as symmetrical as the newer version. Blue Base has an extra set of ramps at its center that Red Team's base lacks, and there's a whole building next to Blue Team's base that got removed from the final version. The pipes are a part of the playable space here, but they're pretty hazardous to vehicles as they can get stuck in them. Some of the pipes' faces don't show materials at first glance, but they put shield materials there as a way to patch up those holes. Red Team's base lacks projectile collision due to errors in the geometry. The Uncut version has this base fixed and now supports all game types. Convict is up next, and it's a remake of the Halo 1 map Prisoner. The kicker is that it's 2 copies of Prisoner superglued together. The intersection at the middle is brand new, with an elevator taking players to a new rocket spawn. The walkway that was over Halo 1's rocket spawn is no longer diagonal, making a U-shape that surrounds the structure. Window is entirely gone from the level, being replaced by the new middle section of the map. The sniper balconies are also different. They're now directly above the old overshield spawns, and you take an elevator up instead of walking on a ladder. This level is clearly not finished, with geometry errors present and missing textures for the elevators. Rodentia is another Halo 1 remake, specifically for Rat Race. Layout-wise, it's pretty much just Rat Race, but the art direction received noticeable changes. There's glass floors that reveal various machinery, whether it's conveyor belts or generators. The biggest change is the upper cave system. It's no longer a cave, but instead an exterior section that, like Convergence, is based off of the Ascension art style. The teleporters go to different locations on Rodentia compared to Rat Race. The one under camo takes you to the upper part of the map, while the other two are connected. Compare this to Halo 1, where the camo portal takes you to the receiver next to the overshield drop. Our final chapter for this Halo 2 Uncut series is Backwoods. It's not much, just an extremely large, empty map that seems more like a test map than anything. So what did I do with this map? I made it a giant vehicle playground, which includes a new Falcon, fully working for multiplayer. Both Spartans and Elites can use it, and anyone holding objective weapons such as the Flag, Oddball, or Bomb can get into the passenger seats. Same goes with the Shadow. I've also included a new dig site tag not seen in the other maps, a machine gun turret with a grenade launcher attachment. These fire the standard machine gun rounds, but then fire brute shot grenades when using the left trigger. Like the other maps, Backwoods now supports all game types, even 4-way multi-team, with each team having their own vehicle lineup, so have fun. And that's going to be it for this journey through Halo 2's cut content. I'm so happy you all got to experience this with me. I've had so much fun making this mod, and I've learned so much along the way. The update for the content seen in the video will release shortly after this upload, likely a few days after, so stay tuned. Once again, I'd like to thank everyone who's chipped in to help with certain aspects of the mod, the YouTubers and streamers that showcased the mod, and everyone else who's watched this series and played Halo 2 Uncut. None of this would have been possible without each and every one of you. Versions for Nexus and ModDB for Game Pass owners, as well as the tag release, will come out soon, but only when I'm confident that the mod is in as final of a state as possible. If, and only if, you liked what you saw today, be sure to hit the like button, subscribe for more content from this channel, leave a comment on your thoughts on all this cut content being reintroduced to Halo 2, ring the bell to never miss a video upload from me, and if you own MCC and have Halo 2 on Steam, be sure to give Halo 2 Uncut a try. I'd like to shout out my Zealot and Counselor tier patrons, as well as my Needler Gang YouTube members that continue to voluntarily support the channel. This is the Vengeful Vadim. Always remember that you matter more than you think you do, and I'll see you on the great journey.